Crop Talk on Market Journal is supported by Nebraska's soybean farmers and their checkoff.
Soybean growers in Nebraska and across the U.S. recently have been navigating the complexities of weed management and Dicamba-tolerant soybeans, as last month a federal court in Arizona vacated registration of Xtendimax, Engenia and Tavium. The ruling will put some growers of soybeans in a management challenge, recognizing that not all acres of Dicamba-tolerant soybeans will be equally affected. This nuanced situation reflects the U.S. EPA's provision, allowing the use of extending dicamba stocks under specific conditions, meaning that the impact of the ruling will vary depending on a grower's current inventory and the timing of those purchases. Earlier this week, Market Journal host Bryce Duskett sat down with Nebraska Extension weed management specialist Amit Jalla to learn more about the implications of this ruling for Nebraska soybean producers.
Joining us today on Crop Talk is Amit Jalla. He is a University of Nebraska-Lincoln Extension weed management specialist. Amit, we appreciate you joining us. We have some news to talk about on the dicamba front. This is going to have an impact for Nebraska's soybean producers. Talk about where we stand today.
That is true. There have been some changes on use of dicamba-based products. That includes 3 products which are labeled in dicamba-resistant soybean, Engenia, Tavium, and Xtendimax. So early February this year, federal government, federal court in Arizona, they vacated the registration of these 3 products, and so now growers need to consider some other options if they do not have already purchased them.
Well, let's talk about those options. If I'm a Nebraska soybean grower planning to plant soybeans resistant to dicamba this year, what are the things I need to be considering right now?
So number one, if you have already purchased any of those 3 products, you can use them pre-emergence or post-emergence up to the certain growth stage. And you also need to remember, like, the end of June deadline is still there. So regardless if you use in a normal year or this year, you cannot spray any of those 3 dicamba-based products after June 30th in Nebraska. Some other states has different deadline, but for Nebraska, I would recommend to make sure they do not spray after June 30th. And if you do not have any of those dicamba-based products, you can also use some other herbicides. For example, glufosinate-based herbicides can be applied post-emergence for controlling existing weeds. And there are also some other PPO inhibiting herbicides that can be applied. So I would not be panic too much if I don't have dicamba, because we have been controlling weeds without dicamba before this dicamba-resistant soybean came to the market.
A couple of follow-up questions based on what you're saying. First, you bring up that June 30th deadline and mention that is a Nebraska-specific deadline. Why do we have that in place? Just some background information for the audience today.
It is because just to reduce the off-target dicamba injury issues. So each state has different deadline, and in Nebraska, this is what written on the label. Some states, they have some early deadlines. This is just to avoid some late season dicamba off-target injury issues, because we have done some studies and it says when sensitive soybean can get any off-target injury, there are more chances of more loss in your soybean growth and development if this dicamba injury can hit after flowering stage. So some other states has some early deadline for applying those 3 dicamba-based products, but in Nebraska we have June 30th deadline.
Because of those deadlines, it's been a bit of a controversial product across the ag industry. Dicamba has been over its short lifespan here, but what's made dicamba effective for soybean growers but also cotton growers in the South?
It can provide pretty good control of broadleaf weeds, and I would say sensitive broadleaf weeds, because there are some cases of dicamba resistant water hemp and dicamba resistant palmer amaranth in other states. Every year we are testing, collecting seeds from Nebraska fields where there was a control failure of applying dicamba on controlling them. So we have been testing, but so far we have not confirmed, but it is just a matter of time, I would say. So that's why, again, I would like to mention that growers should not consider dicamba as the only option for controlling herbicide-resistant weeds because it is just a matter of time when we will see dicamba-resistant weeds in Nebraska.
We'll certainly see what plays out at the federal level. You mentioned the EPA is involved here, courts as well, so there'll be more news on that front. There's a management guide for controlling weeds in the state. I want to make that kind of our drive-home message for the audience today. They can go there for more information, correct?
Yes, we already have that guide available online to purchase. It's a 2024 guide for weed disease and insect management, and we have all the information that growers can consider. Because the first message I would give is you can use any pre-emergence herbicide in all type of soybean. So that's the good thing about pre-emergence herbicide is it's not trait specific. As long as the product is labeled in soybean, you can use in any type of soybean. So my first recommendation will be just to start with a pre-emergence herbicide that can be applied at planting soybean, that should have multiple herbicide mode of action, so that can provide a pretty good initial control of weeds. And then even there are some pre-emergence residual herbicides you can apply post-emergence. For example, acetochlor-based herbicides, you can apply post-emergence. Pyroxasulfone-based herbicide, you can apply post-emergence. So they will not control existing weeds, but they can provide some overlapping residual activity in the field. So if growers have a lot of issue of herbicide-resistant water hemp and palmer amaranth, using this overlapping residual activity of products will be really useful. And one more message I can give to the growers is we are organizing Nebraska Extension Weed Management Field Day on June 26th at South Central Ag Lab near Clay Center. So this is the field day where we provide all the updates and new technology and new herbicides and everything basically for weed management in corn and soybean and sorghum and also in popcorn. It's free to attend, and you can register online at agronomy.unl.edu/field days.